Welcome to yet another session of the series Apprenticeship Dialogue by India Apprenticeship Forum. Our endeavor has been to create an enabling ecosystem for the apprenticeships by creating awareness and understanding within the industry and for the youth, and influence the regulators to make the system more simplified for the execution purpose. Under the Skill India movement of the government to create skill resources, a lot of action has happened in the area of apprenticeship in last couple of years. And a lot more is anticipated to happen, as stated by the Finance Minister in the budget speech, of further reforms in the Apprentices Act. Today, we have with us Mr. James Raphael, who is the head of the Retailers Association's Skill Council of India. The council is responsible for facilitating skilling initiatives to prepare the current and the future workforce in the retail sector. Welcome, James, and thank you for joining us today to share your valuable views and experience, and also to enlighten us with the initiatives undertaken by RASCI to promote and scale apprenticeships in India.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Thanks, everybody.
Great. So, James, we'd like to understand what's the current skilling. If you'd like to give us the overview about the skilling in the retail sector, what's the kind of skill gap which exists currently? What's the kind of skills that are trending right now and the future skills that would be in demand here?
See, the good part about, if you have to look at retail as a sector, first of all, but from a very broad perspective, if I have to look at it, wherever there is life, retail has to be there.
Absolutely.
In whichever manner, it could be omni-channel, so the interface is to actually serve a consumer, and that could be done through the traditional, what we call as a mom and pop stores, the modern retail segment, direct to consumer, which is more associated with the direct selling fraternity, e-commerce, so it's more through digital, and within that you can have actually fulfillment of consumer needs through catalog selling, through kiosk selling, through TV ordering for that matter. So what if you go to see, when you talk about future skills, when you talk about the skill gap, every business is actually moving towards gaining the consumer share, and hence it is evolving in itself to become, if I have to use the term, omni-channel. So, you had the traditional retailers who are modernizing themselves. You have the modernized retailers who are getting into the online space. You have the direct selling, fraternity, be it a Tupperware, be it an Amway, which was predominantly direct selling. Today, you actually see motor stores across the country. So it's ever evolving. And the good part about retail, since it's such a competitive business, and if I have to look at it from, across as a segment and not as a sector. See, whatever gets manufactured, whatever gets cultivated, whatever gets grown, whatever gets constructed, or whatever gets developed, in terms of a software, etc., gets done with an intent of consumption.
True.
And hence retail is imperative. So it cuts across literally every sector. So functionally, if I have to look at it, it is the selling or service fulfillment interface as a segment that cuts across each and every sector.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be definitely an evergreen sector, and being competitive in itself, being aligned with the industry, like if you have to ask me, to be very honest, there is a big cloud about industry 4.1, 4.0. I could say that I have my retailer at a 1.0 today, and I have some of the top-notch retailers who are probably at 3.6, 3.8 or 4. And aligning with the business is extremely important to evolve with the ever-evolving industry. I mean, you look at it very clearly today as a consumer, you and me. I'm sure this will bring a smile on your face, because we are a pampered lot of consumers in India. I mean, if you have to just look at, very broad and macro figures, if you have to look at a 1.3 billion type of nation with approximately 10 million retailers, you're talking about what? You're talking about one retailer for every 130 citizens. Tell me which evolved economy in the world also has this kind of luxury? They don't.
Very true.
So we are so used to, going to the sabji wala also and the fruit wala and saying, "Bhaiya, taza hai kya?" कौन सा भैया बोलने वाला है कि बासी है? Okay. We are used to going to a proper retail store and catching a packet of bread, pressing it as a typical habit, and asking ye fresh hai kya? There's a best before or an expiry date on it.
Everything is written on it.
So what happens? We are pampered. Okay, and to that extent, the opportunities exist. When we look at previously in the yesteryears, people would always look at retail as dukan, mall. It's gone way beyond that. I mean,
much more.
What stops us from looking at Indian Railways as one of the retailers in the nation? I mean, just imagine 7,000 plus platforms in India, stations in India, and you have a stall literally on every platform. Imagine the opportunities now coming to the actual topic of apprenticeship. Can't we give, you imagine, we have a railway stations cutting across literally every pin code of India.
Absolutely.
Imagine a kid from a Gadchiroli or a Parbani or a Ratlam, from Ratlam, instead of he or her coming to Bhopal or Indore for an apprenticeship opportunity, they walk from their house to the railway platform, which is more secure, safe, place to play, and actually get an apprenticeship opportunity in the nascent stages of their career.
Sure. So basically what trying to say, there's a huge scope because of obviously its omnipresence or the omni requirement of the businesses. And also with the kind of marketplace or the evolved marketplace is there, there's a huge scope for the retailers or the retail industry in the country. But having said that, if you say that that's the wide scope, what is the current skill need, the need for this in this retail sector? Is there any volume that we're talking about right now?
See, predominantly, if you actually go to see, if I have to now explain across omni-channel, if I have to look at it, retail has three big parts, and I'll associate it and give an example of our own body. Okay. Like you have your mind, okay, which is capable of processing multiple transactions at the same time. That's more of your HO resource, which you call typically a category management team. Okay. You have your hands, okay, which is nothing but to serve a consumer, whether in the store or taking the store to the consumer's house. And then you have your legs, which is nothing but, the supply chain. Okay. So with scalable operations, if you go to see the major roles across this omni-channel is going to be your hands and your legs. So your hands to serve, your legs to fulfill. And if you relate this now, it's typically hands wherein you're walking into the store and giving me an opportunity of serving you, and legs where I am bringing the store to your house and getting the opportunity to serve you at your residence. So that's the online and offline cutting across, whether it is kiosk selling, there'll be a blend also. Tomorrow you may walk into a retail store, a proper brick and mortar store, and you may actually not want to go through the rigmarole of doing a trial. Let's say you're buying a pair of jeans or apparels or footwear. You don't want to do your trials. You go onto the kiosk, you select your options, you select your texture, size, etc., make the payment, and ask for a delivery at home, and you move out to watch a movie. So you are without any baggage. So they could be a blend. So an associate who otherwise would conventionally display goods and check you out as a normal customer in a traditional way, here the person is actually having a blend of serving you in the store and actually fulfilling it through the kiosk, wherein another person comes and delivers it at your residence at a pre-decided date. So these are technologies that will keep evolving. So predominantly it will be consumer and customer service. It will be, upselling. It will be cross-selling. It will be, consultative selling, because many a time now, if you look at broadly, if you classify two type of, retail formats, if I have to look at it, assisted selling, unassisted selling. So unassisted selling is more, typically how you and me would buy and make our purchases by habit. It could be a toothpaste, it could be oil. We don't require any counseling or consulting. That's a trust factor. That's a habituated, decision. However, assisted selling could be more to do with, you want to have a gadget, you're going for a holiday and you want to capture moments. Now, those moments are going to be video recorded moments. Those moments are going to be still photographs. And hence, if your preference is still photographs, what would be the best device? So you have just a gadget in mind. You do not know whether a mobile actually can suffice. Or you want to go in for a digital SLR, or you want to go in for, some other product. So these are certain things wherein there's a lot of intensive engagement to understand the need. It could be a latent need that actually suddenly comes out. So there's a lot of engagement, there's a lot of consultation that is happening. So more or less, if you go to see the apparel segment, the accessory luxury, the bridge to luxury and luxury segments, will always have this high-end engagement. It could be consumables, it could be electronics, appliances, factory products.
Sure. So tell me, with so much of scope, and you say that, I mean, with all the job roles and the formats you mentioned, it seems like the volumes are going to be pretty high as well, right? What are the initiatives that RASCI has taken to create or prepare for this kind of a skill requirement? What are the various initiatives that you're doing right now?
See, what we're doing is, first of all, retail, since we say wherever there is life, retail has to exist. It will exist in a traditional format. It will exist in a modern format. It will exist in an omni-channel medium also. Hence, we are not cluster-based or state-based. Okay, we spread across equally everywhere. Given that background, we are actually engaging right from the general education system. Okay, because now, for example, if I have to look at it, out of every 3 children that take admission in the school system, okay, during the elementary and secondary stage itself, there is a child that drops out. Okay, so if you are looking at that, and we are using this terminology, dropout, at the by the standard 9th, maximum dropouts happen. If you go to see by standard 9th, if he or she has to drop out, why should we call the person a dropout? Because in a non-hazardous environment, they could be engaged as apprentices. So can't we replace a negative terminology as dropout as apprentice, to give respectable livelihood? And that can be given in those locations itself. So the child need not actually dislodge himself or herself from the comfort of their family and known environment, at least in the nascent stages of his or her career. For vertical progression, definitely for opportunities, growth, etc., there could be mobility.
So for this, like you're talking about this stuff, so as a council, how are you promoting and enabling this? Are there any programs which are being run by your organization?
Okay, so what happens is we have initiated our conversation with PSCIVE. So we're talking about, since we're trying to do a pilot with a few schools there, wherein all that we're seeking. See, if you go to see, it's not a very big effort, but the impact, the social impact, would be tremendous.
Tremendous, true.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to say that today, if in a school, let's say in standard 9th, because see, the larger impact is two-pronged. If one child out of 3, within the 9th, by the 9th standard is dropping out, actually, it's prudent for us to say that 1/3 of our future workforce is going to get into the employable age bracket at some stage, inadequately educated and inadequately skilled. So that is one part that we are trying to take care of. And the second part is respectable livelihood. So what we're trying to say is that if, for example, you take any school, if there are 1,000 children in standard 9, and we realize that 900 have taken admission in standard 10, more often than not, everyone looks at the 900 who have taken admission in standard 10 from a school administrative perspective. What we are trying to say is, give us the details of the 100 that didn't make it. Can we get that, suppose James was a child amongst that 100, can we get James articulated on a piece of paper? Can James's details come on the Apprenticeship India portal,
Mhm.
the supply side, so I'm available for an apprenticeship opportunity? So can we get that interface actually done over there? So what
Done, yeah.
I'm visible then to a prospective employer. I'm I'm privy to opportunities that exist in and around me. I can take a more informed and calculative decision. I can change the world's perspective about me. Instead of calling me a dropout, call me an apprentice.
So
Because
are there such initiatives happening where there's these people, the school dropouts, I'm sorry to have to use that word, but are these people are now available? Are there, on some platform where they can access some of the opportunities, be it apprenticeship or employment or for
not,
skilling?
not as yet from a digital perspective, we are doing it more through a manual relationship.
Okay.
But we are enabling that to get, because it's just about getting the mechanism, like how typically we would do a short-term training, and let's
Sure.
say the training partner would get a quota of, let's say, a batch of 30. What
Sure.
he does is they get into the Skill India portal and upload those details. So what we're trying to do is, with the school administration, we're saying that instead of us facilitating it on an ad hoc basis where an employer has a requirement, can you, as an administrative in charge wanting to impact positive social, welfare, can you start uploading this, because it's an additional task for them? Can you
Hmm.
start uploading this onto the apprenticeship
Portal.
portal? So
Okay.
it actually becomes a big avenue for uh, increasing the supply that could be available.
Precisely. And I think that's one of the challenges which many of the employers face, that when they have to hire or engage with apprentice, what's the source available which they're not able to, identify. So I think this will be a great problem solver in that aspect. James, you've been talking about, you've been referring to apprenticeships. We are on the apprenticeship forum right now. What's your view on the apprenticeship training in the sector? Are there any statistics which are available, number of employees that are engaged? Anything that you would like to specify about what the kind of, and also if you could highlight what's the potential for apprenticeship, though you have mentioned about the potential of skills in this particular sector, but what's the potential for apprenticeships in the sector as well? So just give us an overview about the apprenticeships in the retail sector.
See, if I have to broadly look at it, you know, there are some employers today who are actually coming back to us and say 15% of the total workforce is becoming a restriction. Can we go beyond? So those are few who have started early in the journey, seen the benefit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Trying to say, can it increase? I understand that yes, it's progressive, but with that kind of a data point, can I go back to our ministry and say that quota badha do? I don't think that is prudent. We've not yet reached that maturity stage, because if I have to look at it overall, are we even somewhere near the compliance of 2.5%? May not be. We are not, definitely. But
Okay.
yes, that is going to be the first level. So the first target of RASCI is at least the retailers that are categorized within the modern segment, while we are working with the traditional segment also, and they have contributed tremendously in this journey. We are looking at least reach the stage of conformance.
So how many today, if I would look at the employees in the sector, how many of them would be engaging with apprenticeships? 10%, 20%, or is it the other way around, 80% or 70% of the employees engaging?
In terms of a percentage, it will be difficult. I can give you absolute numbers.
Sure.
Because, so approximately 850, 860 odd established.
Employer.
Yeah. Have
So they are actively engaged, or they are registered on the portal under the sector?
They are registered on the portal, of which there will be at least around 500 odd employers who have actively engaged apprentices.
And what would be the apprenticeship engagement in the sector? How many apprentices would be there? Because we've got about close to 2.5 lakh apprentices today in the country.
Right.
So how much would be there in the retail sector? What proportion of that would be?
At least 30% of that is from the retail sector. 30 upwards of 30%.
Oh, okay.
So we've been one of the largest contributors.
Largest, of course. You mentioned about the scope and the need which arises.
Right.
Obviously, make it the most sought after thing. Any initiatives that would like to propose, that how do we scale up the apprenticeships in the sector itself?
See, one is like this forum itself, advocacy. Okay.
Sure.
It's extremely important because we've seen the journey wherein a person from a non-believer has become an ardent believer. Okay, establishments who previously were saying this is not meant for me, or the moment you start a topic of apprenticeship, they say, okay, let's move on to the next topic. Today, those are the people who are saying that no, we've experienced it, proof of concept is there, and we have seen the benefit of this.
No, you're absolutely right, James. But I think the people who have tasted the pudding, they know what it is, what lies for them. But I think the whole challenge lies for the people who have still the reluctance, which still goes with that old, preconceived notions about apprenticeship. And also there's some bit of threat in the scare because it's a government program and it's I'll come under the scanner. How do we kind of eliminate that aspect of it, that scare aspect of it?
See, the good part about the reforms that have been brought about in the apprenticeship journey is from a regulatory approach. It has become a self-declaratory approach. So if you actually go to see, it is like all sitting on the same side of the table, focusing on only one aspect, that is the success of the apprentice, because that's the crux of the entire thing that we are doing. Okay, how does the apprentice succeed in his or her journey? In fact, some suggestions that we've also given for improvisation in this aspect is, which till date is not a yardstick, okay, but it's very imperative, because again, I will repeat, whatever we do, whether it's at the ministry level, whether it's at the establishment level, whether it's at a sector skill council level, whether it's at an aggregator level, whether it's at a monitoring body level, regulatory level, the essence is the successful transition of an apprentice to regular wage employment. And that should be a performance indicator, of course, in a matured position, when everyone gets into a matured stage, which could be sector wise also, depending upon how evolved a sector is, because all sectors may not be at this measured with the same yardstick. It could be different for different sector skill council based on their level of maturities. However, this as a performance indicator is extremely important, because that shows the efficacy of whatever we do.
Very true.
So
it could
be, permit me to just complete this. It could be that, so whenever I sometimes casually speak to my HR fraternity, who's embracing apprenticeship, I say, yaar, 12 minute का जो इंटरव्यू में आप जज नहीं कर पाते हो, आपके पास 12 महीना है. Some of them, I'll name a few, like Biba, etc. They've actually embraced these people and they've transitioned them from apprentice to regular wage employment within a span of 4 months.
Very heartening to hear that. Yeah. So is there any average that we know, that what is the absorption rate of apprentices into the wage employment? Is there anything overall, maybe if not for retail, or if this for retail, it will be wonderful to know that.
I would not be able to give you a percentage right now. In fact, inherent with retail, there will be a percentage of the number of apprentices that probably are not completing their contracts. Now, this gives us two outcomes. Okay. See, whenever people used to ask me in the earlier days also, hey, James, there is a person who has got, forget about apprentice. This was much before apprenticeship was opened even for the services sector. So they would say, James, okay, you have enabled placement. So there's a proof of concept. There is an appointment letter that the person has got placed. Now, next level, can we track the person in the system, maybe in the 6th month? I used to say, see, it's not that it can't be done, because if your industry engagement is strong, it's just a matter of running a payroll and saying whether James was hired in January, run a payroll in December of the same calendar year, and see whether James has had a payout. So if James has a payout, James is in the system for 12 months. Okay. So that is one way.
True. True.
However, I said that this our system now, our system is such, it is intuitive. Okay. And so it's about enabling an unskilled person to skilled and unemployed person to employed or economic independence. Okay.
Makes
So
sense.
now if James is a person who has been enabled for his first job, and if James, let's say in 30 days, because there are certain sectors, retail being one of them, there are other sectors also like IT, wherein the attrition rates are extremely high. It's inherent. Okay. So what happens is, now if James was a street smart person, James got skilled, James got certified, James got a job. And after 30 months, maybe 30 days, James moved out of ABC retailer, let's say. James has not left that retailer to sit at home. James has joined XYZ retailer maybe at maybe 500 rupees or 1000 rupees more. But James has no obligation to come back to the system and say,
hey,
that, I was in ABC retailer, now I'm in XYZ retailer. There is no obligation in that. It's not like a passport system, where you go out and go in. So you are obligated and you are tracked completely. So enabling the person for the first job, I would say, whether it's apprentice, who knows? If an apprentice now, that's one of the reasons why I say, like, an MCQ should not always have negative marking. Okay, just because a person did not complete the 12-month journey of apprentice contract, we can't assume that the person has got lost from the system. Chances are, in the 6th month, if the person exited the system, the person actually exited the system for a regular wage employment somewhere else. The person has got himself upgraded.
So the people definitely, I mean, that's, our understanding has also been that the people tend to leave their apprenticeship because they all aspire to be in the employment. At the moment they get it, I mean, that's the objective met. But do you think that the difference between leaving in between versus completing it and then getting into employment, there could be a difference in their careers in longer run?
Actually, okay. One is, we need to do two things in the system. One is have a system that is intuitive enough to capture these movements and make it more intelligent for us to understand, is this person exiting for progress or exiting for regress? Okay. And that is where you can actually get the intent. Now, suppose James is a person who's got contracted in January and his contract is supposed to culminate in December. Let's say James, now in the month of March itself, just 3 months in my contract, okay, I exit the system. The system should be made so non-threatening and non-intrusive to James that I say, hey, I have got the current employer who has contracted me on apprentice, probably did not see my potential or was lost in other things that were important for the organization. I got another employer who recognized my talent and now is willing to take me into that system on regular employment. So it's not a novation as such. Okay, it is transit. It's actually success. It's progress.
Success, actually, yeah.
So what can I do now? The system should be such that, oh, who has enabled me in this 3 months, Jan to March? It's the ABC retailer. Can I reach out to the ABC retailer and tell me, hey, James, you made James so capable that James didn't require to remain for 12 months as an apprentice, get assessed, get certified, and then move on to regular wage employment. I thank you and I salute you. The 3 months was good enough. Can you get me assessed, certified so that I do not get deprived of my certification? And throughout my life, it's like today, how we go back also, I'm sure you will be feeling it. Your nursery and your school, primary school, chances are some of the teachers also, you'll never forget them.
Never forget them. True.
Because that was where you actually got birth. You got honed over there. That was your first step to success.
So you mean to say today, does a system exist or does not exist, which will certify you within the 3 months?
Okay.
Or we have to complete that 12 months of tenure because then only you get certificate.
So what happens is the system is restriction right now. So when we spoke to also, certain employers who've done this transitioning, apprentice into regular wage employment much before. You have a McDonald's, you have Biba, you have many of these organizations who've done that. So when we reached out to them, they said there is no drop down. I don't even have a drop down to do that. So what we're saying is, at least can we do it, as a system, a manual system right now, so that the child does not get deprived. Okay. So you may do it as an internal thing so that, see, tomorrow, when I move out without a certificate, chances are I have a skill which is still not formally recognized in terms of a certificate, and I may still have to undergo the same NSQF certification at a later stage. Why?
Yeah,
can I take a progressive one?
Sure, I understand that. Great. Recently the degree apprenticeships were announced last year. The NEP 2020, UGC has come up with a clear-cut guidelines on that. What's your take on it, and how do you intend to implement it?
I am so happy that they came out. They legitimized what we launched on the 15th of August 2019.
Fantastic. Okay.
So this journey started off very interestingly. What we realized is whoever goes to evolving nations, economies, come back by saying that, Germany is here, Korea is here, and India is here. Okay, so chances are we are all consoling ourselves because we don't have a formal system of recognizing skills that we've acquired in an informal manner. Okay, so it's like you and me. I'll be very honest with you. From childhood, I've eaten mother's food. I'm sure you also would have eaten mother's food. Okay, my mother did not get certified by any master chef in the world, but I'm live and kicking, and on this show is testimony to her cooking skills.
Absolutely.
So what happens is we realize that, okay, if everyone is saying that the dual system, yes, we strong belief in it, and if the dual system is the way to go, and if, let's say, Germany is the benchmark, in the world, can we do a Germany plus? So in fact, the small team that we have, we sat in the cabin just next door to this cabin, and we said, let's scratch our heads, let's put our heads together, and let's start looking at the we walk curriculum that we had once upon a time institutionalized, Himachal Pradesh being the first state that we implemented we walk in. And at that time it was more of standards equal to NSQF levels, though one is input based, the other is outcome based. Okay, and we realized that as we went ahead, and we requested the decision makers in MHRD also at that point in time to actually take cognizance of it and get the people transitioned into what we had then curated. So in January 2019, after doing a lot of engagement with industry leaders, so we said, if we have to do a Germany plus, so the easiest thing in this world is very clear. If you know that there is a best practice, okay, first match the best practice. Okay, then if you want to be better than the best practice, you just add even one rose on top of that best practice, you'll be better than the best.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the same approach that we said. If everyone is praising Germany, I'm sure there'll be a lot of depth, value, research, and hard work that has gone in enabling that. Let us study that entire model and let us put a plus to it. So while we went through their entire work and way of functioning, we realized that yes, it's a very well integrated and robust intertwined education and skill system. While we said, okay, let us then look at an outcome which is guaranteed for the child in UG programs, and by the time they graduate, let it culminate into something that even a Germany in this environment does not give. So let us give a supervisory role. Okay, so if the outcome which is going to be guaranteed is going to be a supervisory outcome, let's work backwards and let's see what are the skill sets, what are the competencies, what are the knowledge elements, what are the performances that the person will have to acquire in that journey to succeed in that role. We work backwards, and with a lot of engagement with academicians as well as the industry leaders, we realized actually it was a revelation actually at that point in time. And to be very precise, the skill component was working out to 67.5%.
Okay.
Remaining being the academic portions. Okay. And it was actually 70-30 vice versa at that point in time.
True, true.
So in January 2019, then we had a meeting in Shram Shakti Bhavan, and all the stakeholders were there. We had people from AICT, UGC, MHRD, and they said that yes, actually, if you go to see, vocational skilling has, we are all culprits to it, because probably at some stage or the other we were, 19-20 का फर्क कर लेंगे, चलो 19-20 का फर्क करने से it's not going to happen, because even if I had to assume, Harvard being the best university in the world, if Harvard has to in isolation write the curriculum of what is going to go into all the admits over there, once they pass off, and if industry does not recruit them, does Harvard have the wherewithal to hire them? No. So how can Harvard be the writing body, or the body that actually articulates what is desired for professional to succeed in the industry? It has to be the industry who has to write it.
Right, that.
So when we got this and we shared this, I said, let's try to make a difference, not by doing a 1920 change. If we have to succeed and it needs to be topsy-turvy now, let's do it. Anyway, it's uncharted territory. Anyway, there is an employer who's standing behind and backing and saying, I guarantee, without the person knowing the R of retail or the S of skilling, okay, if they conform to the hiring specs, which is non-functional to our organization, we are betting on the person, and we are willing to take the person as a supervisory cadre on successful completion of this 3-year program. I think we need to walk that path. It's uncharted territory. So we did that, and we did a pilot with varied degrees of difficulty. So we selected one university in Solan, wherein if you actually go to see, much industry does not exist. It's a migratory population. They either move to Chandigarh, NCR region and beyond for economic independence. We chose an all-women's institute, the Jayoti University in Jaipur, and we chose a type of upmarket state-run college in Pune, Neswadia, and we ran the pilot through that. In fact, we launched it also through the hands of both the Honorable Union Ministers, MHRD and MSD. This happened on the 15th of January 2019. And trust me, at that point in time, we did not know, because nomenclature was something that was being discussed in every corridor. And we were looking at only one thing: how can the child succeed? So we, to please all the stakeholders, we said we'll put 3 years also in it, in the title. We'll put apprenticeship also in it. We'll put degree also in it. We'll put program also in it. We'll put all the possible things. So we launched it as a 3-year apprenticeship embedded degree program.
So I think it's very, obviously make it vocational education more aspirational, and you also get the mainstream education, which is more, I would say, which is more employable, the outcome of the mainstream. So I think it's a good blend. But definitely it involves a lot of participation, engagement of the academics with the industry to get this implemented.
See, I'll add one more beautiful point in this. It's just an extension of what you just said. See, you may have come across this also in terms of, especially when your teams would be mobilizing candidates, etc., for a particular purpose. And say, oh, दुकान में काम करने ना बाबा ना, इसमें काम करने ना, security का ना. Okay, the how I would say, dignity quotient, or the aspirational quotient, etc.
Precisely, yeah.
I strongly believe that across every sector, nothing is aspirational at the frontline job level. Be it IT, be it banking, be it retail, be it carpentry, be it construction, be it security. However, beyond a particular level, across all the sectors, it becomes aspirational. See, it's not aspirational for me to be an unarmed security guard outside a cooperative housing society. But yes, it's aspirational to be the personal bodyguard of the Honorable Prime Minister. Functionally, I'm nothing. I'm the same. Someone has to show me a path. And hence, my submission to all my partners in the skill ecosystem is never mobilize a candidate for the job or the vacancy that is in hand. Mobilize the candidate for the career. where he or she wants to stop in that journey is dependent on him or her. It's not dependent on you and me.
No, I think that's a very valuable input coming in from you. I think not to get them for today's job, but I think how can we provide them a career? I think that makes a lot of sense here.
So now in the higher education space, the beauty of it is, and this we experienced with the principal of Bhavan's College, where we were implementing it in Bombay itself. She used to say, previously when I would go into shopper stop, I would see people across the counter, and then suddenly I would see everyone's vanished. And then I realized some of them were my pass outs. Okay. So they themselves had that feeling. So we're saying that suppose we have to get now industry integrated within your institute, because you have abundance of space. And for their OJT, actually, they don't have to go beyond the institute boundary. It's a win-win for both, for industry, for you. They'll start seeing it within their system. Their parents will start seeing the retail outlets within the system, and that is when it will start resonating with dignity. It's almost like tomorrow, if you land up, let's say in the Heathrow airport, and when you're checking out, okay, you suddenly, while moving out, you see a Goli Vada Pav person actually with a stall there next to Nando's. Your perception of Goli Vada Pav, which otherwise when you would have seen here, will say, what? And suddenly you will relate it. If they can be a person who's a son of soil or daughter of soil from there, work in a Goli Vada Pav outlet, what's there in working? So the perception will start changing.
True. So I think obviously it breaks a lot of perceptual barriers around vocational education, make it more aspirational, and we do hope that it gets tremendous success. And of course, do get support from organizations like you to make it more successful, James. Great. Thank you so much, James, for sharing your valuable inputs. I think it was wonderful having this conversation. A lot of inputs coming from you, a lot of your opinions, thoughts, which are very provocative as well. And of course, provocative from the fact that they are very, which are essential for the transformation of the system to make it more, acceptable of the vocational education, of the skilling system, and how we can make it like really an aspirational for the youth of the country. Thank you so much once again, James.
Thanks a lot, Sumit, and your entire team. And I look forward to this being a series. It should be a 1.1 or 1.2, like the industry future skills will keep on going on.
Definitely.
That's the way we need to
support from you will definitely make it happen.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Great. And congrats to your entire team for enabling this platform.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Great. So the session is over now. Thanks so much, James. It was really wonderful. I think I've had a couple of sessions in the past as well. I think this is more engaging. I've had wonderful conversation with you.